And just like that, I'm back. Back to this room where it all started, where I first started the rock and roll to success. And to be very honest, it was quite hard to even count the days I've been away. And I admit that I had to use an online calculator because I was over one month and a half away from home. And actually there's a bunch of videos that are already on YouTube, but I haven't really posted them, so they're not public anymore, or they're not public yet, but they will be. And you'll fucking love them because they were recorded in amazing places throughout Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, and also a bunch of shorts that I hope you guys really like. But really, today is a Monday, and I got back home on Saturday. So I got back to São Paulo Saturday morning. And it's so weird after being away for so much time and doing so much in between, going to so many amazing places, tasting different foods, trying to live like a local in all of those places, because we didn't stay at fancy hotels or anything. We got Airbnbs. We mostly stayed either on neighborhoods that were very working class, like San Telmo or the Constitución region in Buenos Aires. We also in Santiago de Chile, where we stayed near Ecuador metro station, which really isn't like super fancy neighborhood, not at all. It's not like super poor or anything, but it's really how the locals live. So this Airbnb was in a building with, it was quite a tall building, maybe 30 stories high. And really each story looked like a hotel because there were so many apartments. So yeah, maybe easily 300 apartments, maybe more, just on that building alone. And the other buildings surrounding that were pretty similar in height and the way they were made up. So you can imagine how many people lived in our general vicinity. Also I think I'm speaking too much of accommodation, but yeah, the gist of this part is to say that we really try to live like locals as much as possible, try to eat what the locals eat, do what the locals do. Of course, we end up doing a bunch of stuff that only tourists do, because locals, either they already know of it, they've already been to it, they don't really care, or something that really happens a lot, and I'm sure you've done it as well, is when you have something that's an important sight to see, or a good museum, or anything really that's of great interest to the public, but you live nearby, either it's in your neighborhood, your city, your whatever, it's like 1 hour away, you might end up never going there because you always put it back. You always think, yeah, maybe next week, maybe next month, maybe next year, and you end up never going there. And this has happened to me many times, really. I think this is something that we should try to do more, to know the place where we live, to see really the things, to not get too much into a routine in which we never let ourselves explore a little bit our surroundings, be it in your own town, your own city, or in the vicinity, and somewhere 1 hour, 2 hours away from where you live. I bet that there are many places that you could be amazed by, but you don't give yourself the chance. And I'm not saying that to put say oh, you are terrible because of that. I've already done this as well, and of course I'll still do it from time to time. Everyone does it. And for instance, when I lived in Germany, in Stuttgart, there are many cool museums over there, but the only ones that I really went to were the Mercedes Museum or the Daimler Museum and the Porsche Museum. And of course, I'm a huge car guy and mechanical engineer, all that stuff. I was working in the auto industry, like it made a ton of sense. And like my subway station was Porsche Platz. So, which is where they have the Porsche Museum, and behind the Porsche Museum, there's like the headquarters of Porsche, the main, um, manufacturing plant, and even the place where I worked. I didn't work for Porsche. I worked for Bosch at the time, but our office, like, it was a complex of offices that we rented from Porsche. So, like, literally, you'd have to go through the Porsche parking lot, and there would be a bunch of super cool cars, either being tested or owned by the people that worked at Porsche. And not only Porsche cars, but the whole Volkswagen group cars, like all of their brands, they had a bunch of them. And there was another parking lot in which they kept the cars like waiting for the trucks to come by and pick them up to take them to their future owners. So that was pretty cool. But I didn't go to the other museums in Stuttgart, even though I lived, like, literally I had to go through one of them pretty much every day to get home. And even the opera house, which I also had to go through every day. And I fucking love music. I fucking love going to that kind of thing, to the opera, to ballet, to whatever. I love classical music and music in general, but I really like classical music, appreciate it. And even though I lived pretty much across the street, a little bit more, but I had to go through that place every day. And I only went there once, and it wasn't expensive at all, really. I think I paid like 20 euros, and it wasn't even a bad place. You could see it pretty well. So it doesn't make sense looking back and thinking like, why didn't I go at least once a month? Like, I could have paid for it. My salary wasn't that high or anything, but I could have paid for it. It was 20 or 30 euros a month. And you know, those are some stupid things that we do with money. Sometimes we try to hold on to money when we shouldn't. But yeah, it happens. Anyways, about being back, it's funny. Like, you guys need to watch the videos that will come in the coming up days. But I would just really wanted to record this today, because this is like the day I'm back in the office, the day I want to do shit, because of course, man, I am so inspired. There's so many things running through my mind, running through my body, because it was connected to so many breathtaking views. Like, you can't imagine, really, you can't imagine how many cool places we went to, my girlfriend and I, and wow, we had so many amazing experiences and met many amazing people as well. It was really a very humbling experience in a sense. Like, I was writing about this on this notebook that I bought. It's like my bullet journal for the year. And well, before I start talking about this, you know, I have my podcast that's hosted in this exact channel, Rock and Roll to Success. And I have a bunch of episodes recorded and a bunch that I still need to record, that I need to talk to the people again so that we can schedule and record them. And man, it feels like forever since I recorded this, and it was like 1.5 months ago only. But this is the thing with traveling, and actual travel, not tourism, because it's a whole different thing. And I can get more into this in another video. I just don't want to go into too many tangents. But yeah, actually traveling and trying to see the world through the lens of different people. And that was a thing that I talked to my love a lot. Actually, she'd bring it up more than I did. What if we were born here? Like, how different would we be if we were born here in Buenos Aires or here in the middle of Bolivia, in the middle of a tiny village where like 50 people live, or even less, really. There was a couple of places that we went to that you didn't really see people around. Maybe there were like 10 people living there. Apparently, maybe they weren't home, but it was really weird to think, wow, what if we were born in a different country? What if we were born into a different culture, a different time? And we saw many people who aren't as fortunate as us, and that they live in these places and not necessarily they have the chance or even the mindset, like it's not a possibility for them to think of going to other places, going to other countries, going to really see the world. And it was quite humbling to see them and think about how they think and how they live. And like most of those people were pretty great people. Like the guy that was our driver, and we like to play because we went from San Pedro de Atacama, that's in the Atacama Desert, obviously, in Chile. And San Pedro is expensive as fuck. Chile is very expensive. We saw it in a video before going to San Pedro, and I totally agree with the guy. And maybe if I find the video again, I may put a card over here so that you guys can check it out. Their channel is pretty cool. It's an Irish guy and a Russian girl, and they travel the world. And he said something like, just go into Chile, do whatever you have to do, and get the hell out of there because it's too expensive. And that's so true, especially because we were coming from Argentina. And even though Argentina had a huge inflation in the past few months, of course, in the past few years, but in the past few months, it was even higher. Even notwithstanding that, it was still much cheaper than in Santiago, especially in San Pedro. And everything in Chile is expensive, like literally everything. Okay, not literally everything, but most things are pretty expensive. And to go to San Pedro, I was actually not to San Pedro, to the Uyuni Salt Flats, Salar de Uyuni. It was actually pretty inexpensive because most of the way there was inside of Bolivia, and Bolivia is a cheap country. And we ended up paying in cash with US dollars, $215 per person for like 4 days, like including 3 nights of hotels, and all of the rides and everything, and the food, and it was pretty cheap. And well, when you get to Bolivia, first they take you in a little van, minibus kind of thingy, to the border with Bolivia. And it's pretty interesting to see the difference, because in Chile it's super organized. Like the thing in the border, you have to go through kind of like a container, a huge container, kind of like a little hangar kind of thing, in which the buses or the cars go in, and like they make a line and they let the cars go in little by little, and then you get out and you stamp your passport, and then you show them your baggage, your luggage, so like they see that you don't have any drugs or anything that illegal going through the border. And then like, yeah, just go. And then when you get to Bolivia, well, that's where it gets interesting, because in Bolivia you simply have to get out of the bus and wait outside. Like literally, they have a room that's literally smaller than the room I'm in right now, and this is a meeting room with pretty much just a table for 8 people, and the room was literally smaller. And so you have this line to get into that room because it's like a little house with that room, like, and there's a little line, no, not a little line, actually, a huge line to get into that. And they let people in like 5 or 10 at a time into that room. So all of the other people are on that huge line. And it was so cold, especially coming back, but and on the way on, like when we were going into Bolivia as well, it was quite cold, especially because we didn't put on the appropriate clothing that day, so it felt much colder than it was. Maybe it was like 10 degrees Celsius, maybe a little less, because also it's so high. It's about 5,000 meters, something like that, of altitude. And it's really an experience getting into Bolivia. But as soon as you do get into, as soon as you get your passport stamped, and then they give you some breakfast, which was actually pretty nice, the breakfast. Like you had tea, you had coffee, not real coffee, like the powdered coffee that you put in hot water and say it's coffee, but it was decent enough. And they had bread and pauta, that's like an avocado paste, and cheese and salami, so it was pretty good. And we were pretty hungry as well because we got up super early. But anyways, as soon as you go into Bolivia, you go into this beautiful park, like beautiful, amazing park. It's a place where they decided to turn into a national park of sorts and make a preservation of the natural environment. And there are many volcanoes, there are lagoons, there's a place like it's a huge lagoon with thousands and thousands of flamingos. You see volcanoes, you see geysers. There was even a geothermal power plant that I think they're still building it, but it's already working. And it was fucking awesome, especially because also I'm a huge energy guy. And I love to see us as humans harnessing that energy, like being like, it's like a husbandry of the natural laws, natural sciences, which is pretty cool. And yeah, Bolivia is amazing. The way to uni, I'd say that's even better than the Uyuni salt flats it's themselves. But that's not dissing on the salt flats at all, because they are amazing. It's just that the way to get there is so amazing, so beautiful, that I reckon it's even better. For me at least, it was even better. And the energy you feel on those places, not only in Bolivia, we also felt this in Argentina as well, because we did another tour, and I think there's already a video up in which I talk a little bit about this, or you can see the background. And it was amazing, amazing, amazing. The Andes are amazing. You just feel this energy. And that's probably why the Incas and some of the peoples that live in that place to this day, they talk about the Pachamama, that would be the goddess, like Mother Earth kind of goddess, like Gaia. And you really feel that energy, you really feel that connection. And really, even if you are an atheist or agnostic, you'll feel quite a connection to Earth, to God, whatever you call him. If you call him God, if you call him Allah, if you call him whatever, like you feel this connection. And it's really strong. You feel real grounded, and it's really weird in a way, but in a very good way. Like you feel this, like literally there are many times in which I started crying. I didn't let myself be seen crying, but you know when you get that feeling over here, like that your eyes are starting to water up, and you try not to say anything because your voice will be kind of squiggly. Yeah, you get the feeling a lot. Like seeing some of those places, they're so amazing. Like we saw the Aconcagua, that's the highest place in the Americas, and actually the highest anywhere outside of Asia, which was fucking insane. Like, imagine it's almost 7,000 meters high. It's unfathomable, man. Like a plane flies at 10,000, 11,000 ish, tops, and this thing is like no fucking plane would go right through it because it would be kind of dangerous. So, and you see it, and I'm not even sure how far we were from it, but we could see the top of it, and just looking at it and feeling that energy, that, wow, really, I don't have the words to say. And I'm even getting kind of lost. Like just today, I think I wrote about, let's see, like almost 10 pages in a sitting, just of writing and thinking about the places we went to and the things that changed, especially the things that changed inside. The things that change inside are the most important of them, and really I'll end up needing to write a book or 2 or 3 about all of this. And I was thinking about this while I was driving earlier today, because, well, I'd have to call, if I did a book just about this trip, I'd have to call it 36 Days on the Road. But also, I think I really will need to write the Rock and Road to Success, and there's one more in the making that I'm still downloading it into my consciousness. But yeah, I think this year will bring many things, many interesting things. Like I'll talk more about the lessons I have and how blessed I feel for so many things that happened to me and still happen to me in my life. And really, when I say these things, it's not like, oh, I want you guys to think that I'm good at something, or yeah, I want a virtual signal or something like that. Not at all, really. It's about helping you guys see the things in your lives that you're blessed. And really, it doesn't, like, literally, to the gist of what I want to get in every video and everything that I do is to show you guys that we don't need much to be happy, really. Because I know some of you guys might have thought or might think, oh, that motherfucker, he's traveling for a month and a half, so he must be super full of cash, he's so fucking rich. And really, no, man, it wasn't that expensive at all. Especially if you guys are coming from a rich country, from Europe, from the US, and you are in a hard currency, dude, it wasn't expensive at all. Just Chile was kind of expensive because the food there, it's like they don't have inexpensive options at all. It's like it starts in mid-tier and it goes to super luxury. Here in Brazil, we have like super cheap until super luxury. You have like the whole spectrum, but in kind of, yeah. But we do have more options that are both relatively cheap, and especially considering, like, if you compare it to richer countries, you guys might find it cheap. But yeah, I know that many working class Brazilians wouldn't say many of the things that I'm referring to as cheap right now are cheap, but well, it is what it is. We're still a poorer country than we wish we were, and we really need to do something about that, about raising awareness about the importance of technology and of developing our own technologies. And well, I don't want to get too much into this right now, but yeah, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, if you earn hard cash, it's not expensive at all to travel through South America, and probably as well through Asia, most of Asia, through Africa. So it's not like even in Europe, I know you guys had a lot of inflation lately since the pandemic, but even in Europe, when I lived there, it was pretty inexpensive. At least, of course, I was living in Germany, so it was one of the richest countries, so I did get a relatively good salary considering I was an intern there. But anyways, it was pretty cheap to fly through Europe and to go to many places. So yeah, basically South America is pretty cheap for you guys, and you should definitely come. And I'm not even talking about my own country, Brazil, but yeah, of course, if you ever come to Brazil, just give me a call, just send me a message, and I'll be happy to help you with some tips. And really, Brazil is not that dangerous as most people tend to think. You just need to be a bit street smart, which ends up being good for Brazilians when we go elsewhere, because we kind of are a bit paranoid. And it was funny because when we got to Santiago, we got there like 4:30 in the morning, so it was pitch dark, and the bus station was completely, absolutely hideous. Like really, it was like something through, it was like a Brazilian bus stop from the 60s or 70s in a medium-sized town. And Santiago is like a global city of sorts. It's supposed to be good, right? And I'd been to Santiago and I didn't go to the bus stop at the time, so really I was expecting something better. Like my city is much smaller than Santiago, and our bus station is pretty good, and it's over 15 years old, so I was expecting something better from Santiago. And we ended up meeting a Colombian couple, middle-aged couple, and like hung out together and went through it together because it was cold. There were some weird looking guys, if you know what I mean, like, you know, those guys that kind of sketchy, like really sketchy. Not, I'm not paranoid at all, but yeah, there were some weird guys. Like my girlfriend and the Colombian lady were quite suspicious. I think it was like their female sixth sense getting like rattled, like this place is too weird. So eventually, after about 2 hours, because when we got there, things were still closed, right? It was too early, and things started opening up in the bus station, and we went into this little store to buy a SIM card. And I ended up buying a SIM card. In Argentina, I didn't do this, and in Chile, it ended up being the best thing I did because it was super cheap, like $2 for a SIM card. And both me and the Colombian lady got one each. And then the lady that worked at that store, she told us, you know guys, if you go just across the street, there's another bus station. Like there's a new one that has Wi-Fi and bathrooms and everything. So basically, we were suffering on that shitty bus station, which was the one that we got into. And we literally had to just cross the street, and there was a pretty good bus station, like new, with Wi-Fi. They had like a food court on the second floor. They had even a hotel inside. It was crazy. And it was a new one that was made by or for a tour bus that's like a bus company in Chile, and they go apparently pretty much everywhere near Santiago, and they're the ones that do the buses to the airport, to and from the airport, and their service is actually pretty good. So if any of you guys go to Santiago and go through the bus station, just cross the street, go to tour bus, and they'll have everything you need. They have food, they have everything. And their service to and from the airport is also pretty good. They're connected to the subway. Like there's this Universidade de Santiago subway station that's literally connected. You don't even have to get out to get into the subway station. So that's pretty cool. That's one thing that Chileans do pretty well, really. Infrastructure in Chile is actually pretty good. In general, it's pretty modern. The only thing I didn't like in Chilean infrastructure was on the road from Mendoza to Santiago, right after you cross a border, which is also pretty organized. It's that one's a huge hangar. But as soon as you cross, it's going there, you're going up, It's maybe 4,000, 5,000 meters of altitude on that border. And then when you go through Chile, it's like a fucking hedge. The road is like this way. And not only that, the pavement wasn't that good as well. So yeah, that road from Mendoza to Santiago and the Chilean part I didn't really like, but the rest of the infrastructure is pretty good. Their metro station, their subway system is very good. Their metro stations are full of art, so that's an interesting thing to see as well. Reminded me a little bit of Napoli or Naples in Italy, where they also have those beautiful subway stations. And yeah, man, it's funny. There's so many things that I learned, and so many things that I saw, and so many things that changed inside, especially inside. And I feel much more grounded. I feel much more confident, and confident in myself, confident in the figure out ability of things, confident that I can figure out how to do something, or that I can figure out how to fix a problem if it comes up. I mean, there's so many things that I've written here that I'm not even looking at it pretty much. I'm just saying things that come to my mind, for the top of my mind. But yeah, I'll try to parse some of the things that I've written. So like, one of the best things I got out of this was a sense of groundedness, of self-reliability. But not just that, an amplified digital detox that helped me get back to my truest roots, reconnecting to my 13 or 14-year-old self, that boy that bought his Les Paul at Guitar Center. And that was like one of the best days of my life. That's also something I want to talk about later. Things have not always been a bed of roses, but most of his hopes and dreams did come to fruition in some sense or form. And yeah, it's pretty cool to think about that, about how many of the things I wanted to become when I was a teenager, I have become in some shape or form. Not exactly like he would expect or like he would think about at the time, but many of the things I did become. That's interesting. Also, one of the things I wrote here, like my 20-year-old self would waste, quote unquote, hours checking out content on how to travel the world or on the FIRE movement. And I've traveled quite a bit since. And yeah, I remember when I was in college, I looked for things about traveling and traveling the world. And I remember there was this Brazilian chick who it was still on the age of the blogs. She didn't put video content. And I'm not sure even if I could find her if I tried to. But it was at the time, at that age, in which people would really blog and like write something and put some pictures, and she really did travel the world. I think she worked for 2 or 3 years saving up money and then sold all of her things, and she was really traveling the world at the time. And I remember sometimes like on a Saturday that I didn't go out with my friends, and I just checked that out until 1 a.m. that kind of content until 1 a.m. and think, man, I want to do this as well. And in a way, I have done a lot of traveling throughout my life, thankfully. Like, thank God, I'm very blessed. I've had many opportunities, and the people around me also have given me a lot of confidence to do some of these things. And yeah, I have wonderful parents and family, and my girlfriend right now, and yeah, all around, like, really, I'm very blessed. So some things that I've done, I talk about over here, and that I actually became or have done. Yeah. So, and this one's cool. For the longest time, I let things like social anxiety and not feeling good enough take the best of me. Not anymore. Like really, I shouted here, so it's not anymore. not anymore is a shouting part. Because yeah, fuck that. Like, oh, he's socially anxious. Oh, you're too shy for that. Oh, look, fuck you. Who are you to say if I'm anxious or not, if I'm shy or not? Fuck you. And fuck not feeling good enough. Who cares what you feel about if you're good enough or not? Like, dude, just take the shit out, throw it out of your mind, man. I finally started to see my own worth, the worth that some of my friends and teachers have seen all along. So yeah, I remember one of my best friends in the whole world, Enrique, when we were teenagers, maybe 16, 17, he said this to me, and sometimes my dad talks about this quote as well, and he said something like, dude, you're the man. You're the only one who hasn't recognized this, or that how like, you're the only one who doesn't know that yet. And yeah, man, now I'm starting to feel like this is true. Like, for many years, I knew of that potential, but it wasn't something that I actually felt or knew. But now I'm really starting to realize that. And the thing is, it's hard to have an unbiased view of yourself. Most things you take for granted. Things, for instance, isn't everyone like that? Doesn't everyone know that? No, motherfucker. Most people are oblivious to all those things you take for granted. It's crazy to think how much changed in the span of more or less 1 year. And it really is crazy. I had just come back from a burnout, actually thinking about it. I don't think I come back from it 1 year ago yet. I was still getting out of it. And I thought I wouldn't be able to finish my MBA at the time because I had this thesis to write, and I was so drained. I didn't have energy at all. And yeah, it's so funny, right? When you have the energy, it's so much easier to focus. That's why a friend of mine, or sort of a mentor figure, Dave Meyer on X, Twitter, he's a good friend of some of my friends like Reddit. He talks a lot about this, about focusing and how energy or being able to harness, to manage your energy is much more important than being able to harness your focus, in a sense, because if you don't have the energy, you won't be able to focus properly anyway. And of course, if you can't focus, you can't do anything. And there's this constant thing, especially with hustle culture, right? Where people are constantly thinking, well, I should work 30 hours a day, like 1,000 hour work weeks, because that's how you do it, that's how you get rich. And really, the best ideas don't come when you're grinding nonstop for months or years on end. Like, you'll just get burnt out. And when you're burnt out, you'll just be spinning your wheels and working. Yeah, you may work 1,000 hours, but if you were on a good place, energy-wise, if you were well-rested, if you were healthy, you could do it in 2. So stop feeling like, oh, I am the shit, I'm the best because I work so fucking much. You know, the baker or the garbage man, they work much more than you and they don't make that much of a living, do they? And that's not really like, I'm not saying it's bad to be a baker or anything. Like, it is what it is. You guys know it. These guys are the real heroes, to be honest, in society. If you think of it, like, they work their asses off and they still don't get that much of a good living. And yeah, I hope to inspire some of these guys as well to think a bit broader and think about how they could use their skills to like apply some leverage to their skills and be able to earn a better living for them and for their families. And yeah, asketh and you shall receiveth. Or in more layman terms, the baby who doesn't cry doesn't get fed. And in Portuguese, this is so much cooler. I'm not even sure if that's the way you should say it in English, but in Portuguese we say quem não chora não mama. So who doesn't cry doesn't get fed, like literally in like doesn't get tit milk, like mother's milk. And yeah, throughout this journey, I've seen more and more that when you ask for things, you tend to get them. And the simplest of things, really, you can start with the simplest of things. So maybe you can ask for a little discount at a cafe. Maybe you can ask just for like a teeny thing, anything that you think is a bit obnoxious, just ask for it. Even if they don't give you, it will be like, you will be chipping away at that social anxiety muscle that you have, so just ask. And like for instance, when we got back to São Paulo, I asked for two things that if it was a year or two ago, I might have never asked. Like we got into this coffee place just out of the arrivals thingy, when you get in the airport and you get out of the tunnel and you're like inside the airport, like in the country already, really, so you're free to go. And there was this coffee place and we went there, and first thing I asked was, hey, do you have like a paper clip or something so I can like pinch my cell phone so I can change my SIM card? And the chick was like, yeah, sure. And she gave me the exact thing, like the official thing that you use for that. She didn't give me a paper clip. Like she really had it, because probably that's another thing. If it's something that you need or you want, you're probably not the only one. So she literally had that and she gave it to me, and it was like, holy shit, like we just needed to ask. And then we got a couple coffees and we had bought an empanada. So an empanada is like a hot pocket of food. If there are many things that can go inside, but anyways, we had bought one in Chile the day before, and because we slept on the airport, like had took some naps. But anyways, so we had this thing, and I asked the girl, and there was a guy as well, and I was like, hey, is there any way you guys could heat it up for me? Like, I was like, if it was a year ago, I'd never asked that. And I know it's for you guys who are more extroverted, who are deeper into this journey, you might be thinking, yeah, that's ridiculous, man. Of course they do it. But with my upbringing and the way I used to think, it was like, holy shit, how am I gonna ask them? It's so obnoxious to ask them to heat up some food from another place, like literally from another country even. And she was like, yeah, sure. And then they even cut it up for us, and like they put it in a way that was it was kind of cute even, and warmed up, and I was like, holy shit, I just had to ask. It's like, the thing as well, they say when God closes the door, he opens a window, and it's also a bit of like that. You can't just go looking through the windows. You need to knock on the doors, you need to kick the doors open sometimes. And just asking, you can get a bunch of stuff just for asking. You don't have to find somewhere you belong, like the Linkin Park song. When any group with a pulse will love to have you around, you belong anywhere. You just need to want to be a part of it. Like anywhere you want to be a part of, you belong. Yeah, it's funny to think how this probably will end up becoming a book one day. Yeah, like I said before, I feel much more confident now, but not in an inconsequential, reckless way. It's just more of a calmness that you have, an aura, like you feel like you can be your authentic self and just don't give a fuck. So, if you can see here, I used to call me an ex-wannabe rock star, turned mechanical engineer, so I think I can officially scratch the ex wannabe and just call myself a fucking rock star and fuck it. The hardest thing keeping you from becoming your true rock star self is being yourself in the mirror. It's seeing yourself in the mirror. So the hardest thing is to see yourself for what you really are and being okay with that. Oh yeah. Oh, that's what it looked like. Yeah. But you are the one who sees yourself different. Other people all see you through the same lens, so to speak. They will not see all of the flaws that you see in yourself. So all of those flaws that you're deeply insecure about, no one knows it. They are none the wiser. So they might not even notice them or see right through them, but who cares? Yeah, 46 days on the road, and yeah, I have some things to talk about each of the places as well, but I don't want to bore you guys too much. It's already been 46 minutes, holy shit. Like, really, if you went back 1 year ago, I was just starting to do some little videos that were, you know, when you put the question on Instagram and you answer this as a video, you know, there were like 20, 30, 40 seconds of like whatever Instagram lets you put on a story. And when I first started doing that, it was like, oh my God, I'm exposing myself. And now I'm doing a fucking almost 1 hour long video that's totally unscripted. I'm literally just some things I read over here, but I'm literally reading. I'm showing you guys that I'm reading, and I'm commenting, and I'm talking about a bunch of other stuff that had nothing to do. They weren't written here at all. So this in itself is another thing, like you being able to speak, to be more charismatic, to be more present, all of those things that have to do with grounding, they're such a superpower. Like, if I went back 6 months ago, there's so many things that I do on a whim right now. Like, dude, I have a fucking podcast. I've interviewed maybe, 15 plus people, and all of them were awesome. Like, it wasn't like I was interviewing anyone. They were all people that I resonated with, and then I reached out to them, like on the DMs or something. So really, it's fucking awesome to think about this. Like 1 year ago, I'd never think I'd have a fucking podcast and that I'd be able to speak to people the way I do. And really, the next few episodes that I put out, they're still older episodes. I hope that the ones I record from now on, and today's April Fools, 2024, the ones that I record from now on, I hope that will be even better. But I guess only God knows, right? No, just kidding. God knows they will be better because I'm a better communicator now than I used to be. We've learned to communicate much better. What am I doing? Yeah, I think there are many things that I'd like to talk about later on, not only about this trip, but about the journey, because life's a fucking journey, not a destination. And many times the journey is even better than the destination. If you just think about the end point, you'll never be happy getting there. And I know that there are many people that use this thinking in a bad sense, so they're just procrastinating. But I'm not talking to them. I'm talking to the people that are not procrastinating. They are doing what they have to do. But you need to let yourself be happy throughout the whole journey. So not only at the starting point or at the end point, you need to allow yourself to enjoy all of the journey, because many times the best points in the journey will be in the middle. They will not be at the end. For instance, in your life, how does it end? Death. Is death the culminating peak of your life? I mean, sure, if you think from a more religious perspective, maybe you might be finding God, or you might be going somewhere very much worse. But in the sense that we typically think of in a more materialistic sense of people who are alive right now, is death the best point of your life? Well, probably not. The peak of your life, or the peaks, the best moments of your life are in the middle. So you need to enjoy them. And also, one thing that I was thinking about before, during my trip, is that you need to have days that could be at least in the competition for the best day of your life. So if the best day of your life is only your graduation or your wedding or the day your kid was born, the first kid was born, that's cool. But you need to have more days to compete for this, because otherwise your life is really going like you're averaging it from a low standard. And really, you don't need to think that I need this great event to have someday be the best day of my life or one of the best days of my life. Really, just having a day in which you go out with your dad or your mom or your significant other or your child or one of your best friends, a sibling, whatever it is, someone you cherish, and you go with them somewhere and you have a nice coffee and a nice conversation, and you're totally focused and present over there. You're not thinking about other stuff. Just doing that, just going somewhere beautiful in nature near where you live, just making a heartwarming meal for your family, like simple shit. And that people usually take for granted because they're always thinking, oh, NPC, I need money, money, money. And of course, everyone needs money. Of course, it's the token that we trade for goods and services. But life's not about just that. Life's about much more. And you have to have these days stringed in a row. If you don't have one, at least every couple of months, one day that's totally awesome, that you will cherish the memory, that you might look at the pictures of that day and remember it. Man, there's something wrong with your life, either with how you're actually living, or probably, most probably, with your mind, with the way that you see things, with the lens you're seeing the world through. Because at the end of the day, the small things are the most important things. The small things are the things that you will actually remember when you're in your deathbed. You won't think, oh man, yeah, I should have stayed at the office later, I should have smoked more, that kind of thing. Don't think about that. The only ones that will remember all of those days that you spent late at the office will be your spouse and your children. So yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. April Fools 2024. I'm back home, but in a way it doesn't feel like home, because it feels like anywhere can be home. When you have that kind of confidence and when you know that you can figure things out, really anywhere can become your home. And you know that you're able to go into groups and don't feel super anxious about, oh, will I be accepted or not? Just, like, fuck it. If they don't accept me, who cares? And, some of you might be thinking, well, doesn't that make you an asshole then? And quite the contrary, because you really don't care. And if they do like you and you like them back, awesome. If they don't, awesome as well. And it's not like you're not gonna be an asshole to them deliberately, but if you do click, it will be much better because you're not coming from that space of insecurity, that space of, you know, feeling that need, that, oh, they must like me, they must love me because otherwise, oh, I'll be sad, I'll be terrified, I'll be whatever. So keep this in mind. If you want to unleash your inner rock star, or if you want to make your business show that inner rock star that's inside of you, or even if you have a friend that you know that could listen to this or that could talk to me, could have some of my consulting and we could do some cool project together, or if you'd like to feature on the podcast, and really you need to be awesome. That's the only thing I ask. Be awesome. I think anyone can have an awesome story to tell. As long as you're genuine, as long as you're awesome, in that sense, you might have a place here at the Rock and Road to Success. So thank you very much for watching, for listening. And I really love the feedback that I get from you guys from time to time. So thank you for that. And I love if you could comment, if you could like this video so that the algorithm knows it's good. And yeah, man, see you around. Keep rocking, keep rolling, and keep posted because there are many cool videos coming out. I just didn't put them out yet because it didn't have thumbnails or anything. So yeah, this week you'll probably get a lot of new things from me. And like you guys know that I love to say, good things are fucking coming.